story.
Yes.
This is an interesting thing, which like I kind of get. Battlefield 6 is not using any ray tracing.
Yeah, it says it doesn't have ray tracing, and its developer said there are no plans to add the feature down the line. Despite its popular inclusion in some games, ray tracing's more natural method of simulating light is very draining on system resources. It says the PC version will have over 600 different options and settings. Ray tracing won't be one of them. There's no plan to give them the future. They said, we don't have any plans in the near future either. This is because we wanted to focus on performance. We wanted to make sure all of our effort was focused on making the game as optimized as possible for default settings and default users. So we just made the decision relatively early on that we just weren't going to do ray tracing. And again, it was mostly so we could focus on making sure it was for performance for everyone else. I think it's a relatively good decision.
You know, ray tracing is nice to look at when a game does it. It's nice. It's just not essential.
I think that ray tracing does make development easier on the developer.
Does it?
The reason, yeah, because they don't need to go craft a bunch of lighting. They don't need to go in and like, oh, okay, we got to make this light function correctly in this room, and this room, and this room, and this room. The problem is ray tracing is super hard on your hardware.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's like ray tracing started on the 20 series in 2018.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, it wasn't realistically playable in most games outside of the best possible GPUs until the 30 series. And then finally, with now the 40 and 50 series, it's like actually usable. Gotcha. Fully. Like, and yeah, it's a performance hog. And this is the kind of game where you want it to be as performant as possible. Like, you want to run this game at, you know, the prettiest settings while getting super high frame rates. So it makes sense. Yeah. And then I also think that ray tracing is, you know, if you're a developer who, I don't think it's like beneficial as much in a game like this versus a game like Cyberpunk.
Right.
Like Cyberpunk with path tracing on, which what path tracing is, it's basically better ray tracing.
Oh, okay.
Path tracing is fully simulating light and reflections and how it functions, versus ray tracing is mostly doing that, but you still have some baked lighting.
Okay.
But like, yeah, it's super heavy on performance. You know, like I have super nice computer. If I play Cyberpunk with no DLSS, and path tracing and every setting turned all the way up at 1440p, I'm getting like 36 frames per second. Versus if so I have to turn DLSS on.
Yeah.
But if I turn that off, like Alan Wake is the best example. If I don't use DLSS and I just run the game on its own with Alan Wake 2, with ray tracing and everything turned all the way up, I'm getting like 30 FPS.
Okay.
At 1440p. If I turn DLSS on or turn ray tracing off, if I turn DLSS on, it shoots up to like 60. But if I turn ray tracing off, it shoots up to 90.
Okay.
So it's just such a performance hog that in a game that is primarily like, look, this game's gonna have a campaign. It might even be a really good campaign.
Right.
You know, there have been some Battlefield campaigns that are sick, but realistically, most people are going to be playing this as a multiplayer game. And in a multiplayer game, like, yeah, no one's going to choose, I want the prettier lighting and graphics over, I want to shoot dudes more efficiently.
Right. Let's make something that's fun first.
Yes. So, yeah. If I can have the best of both worlds where I'm getting, Cyberpunk, where because DLSS and scaling in general is another thing where, like, yeah, if you don't do it right, there's ghosting and it looks like shit. So it's like one of those things where if you want to, you have developers have to choose, like, okay, we can implement ray tracing is it worth it for a game? Does it look amazing? Like Spider-Man 2, it's worth it. It looks amazing.
Right.
The ray tracing in Spider-Man 2 adds so much to that game.
Okay.
Because you're getting the reflections off all the buildings and whatnot. Because, it's, you're in New York in the daylight versus like, I don't know, like Call of Duty. I barely notice it.
Yeah.
For example.
Okay.
Like Alan Wake, horror game, big difference.
Yeah.
And then if you are going to implement ray tracing, it probably means you're going to want your DLSS support or your FSR support, if you have an AMD card, to be really good and not look like crap. So now you have to take time to make that happen. Because if you don't, it'll look like ghosty, terrible bullshit.
Right. Okay, I have a question for you. This just popped in my head. Have shooters used ray tracing to create like windows and reflective surfaces to subtly show what's around the corner on a map?
That
That
not
might
to my
be
knowledge.
interesting.
I think that could be really cool. There have definitely been games that have used shadows for that. That's not really a ray tracing thing, but I have definitely been playing shooters before and like saw someone's shadow around the corner and been like, oh, there's a dude there.
Okay. Yeah.
But not so much reflections, no. Marvel Rivals has ray tracing.
Sure.
It is full ray tracing support.
That's an artistically ridiculously beautiful game. Like no matter how good or bad I'm playing that game, I just like looking at the screen while I play.
Yeah, that is a game that is not optimized great, but man, it's pretty.
Nice.
Real pretty.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
All right.
Anyway,
yeah.
Hey, you and I played a video game, one video game each.
Yeah, our video game plan was actually pretty limited. You were working on a video